if you're a pretty girl, and you know if you're a pretty girl or if you maybe need to we know don't touch your face. Like, I get it.
Agreed.
Like, maybe you want to do some adjustments, the neck and below. But, like, I've had a girl that likes the what are they called? They put on the eyes these days, the eyelashes.
Yeah.
I don't need you to look like you got two tarantulas growing out of your eye sockets. Like, you know what I'm talking about. We've all seen it. It doesn't get addressed enough.
Almost feels.
But the eyes, it's insane.
It almost feels like women are more addicted to than men by the way that this plastic surgery makes them look. Does that make sense? It almost feels like they get plastic surgery for an idealized look that they think men want that we don't want.
Wow.
Does it make sense?
Yes, because it's from spending too much time on Instagram and having that persona on Instagram become who they think they actually are.
Well,
did we talk about Zoom dysmorphia on one of our shows before?
Yes.
Yes, exactly the same thing.
It's funny that he said Zoom dysmorphia, because I would have thought he said face app dysmorphia. Not Zoom.
I was going to say it could be Instagram,
Well,
but they call it Zoom because of COVID, and they have
Let me get you guys the same thing.
So let's bring it back to the science.
Yeah.
Dr. Buss talks about this in one of his books. So they go over what the average man thinks a man should look like. So they show different physiques, and then what a woman should look like. So they ask men what a man should look like, what a woman should look like. Then they ask women what a man should look like, and women what a woman should look like. The men pick the physique that is much more muscular, closer to Arnold Schwarzenegger, than the women pick, which is much closer to David Beckham. The men pick the female physique that is much closer to the fitness model with some boobs and some curves, and the women pick the anorexic look. Women think that they need to be skinnier than men want them to be. Men believe that they should be more muscular than women want them to be. So this perception bias that Dr. Buss calls about, maybe evolutionary mismatch, I forgot what he called it, but there was a bias that happens that causes men. What happens is when Liver King, when he first started taking steroids and got a little bit vascular, I'll bet you he noticed attention from women. And so what he thinks is, if I just double this dose of Deca and push my test to 600 a week, then all of a sudden I'll get twice as big and twice as much notice from women. Attractiveness or beauty in men and women is about symmetry. Once you get that big, it's not about symmetry anymore. Now you just look extremely muscular. And there is a small subset of women that are very attracted to that physique. But what I found talking to most women is they like the lean. The best example would be the warrior look from Brad Pitt in
Fight Club, bro. Are you kidding me?
Brad Pitt in Fight Club would be the middle of what we're talking about. Extremely lean. The problem with that look, though, the only problem with that look is you can't tell in a T-shirt. So a little bit bigger than that is like the Chris Hemsworth look. Yeah. So that's the look that's pretty good. But he's beyond that. He's like Schwarzenegger, but with a big trunk. He's got that HGH gut. Yeah. Either that or he's got ab implant. And so that look is not super attractive to most women. So he went past that point because psychologically that's probably what he felt. And you've seen women with eating disorders and they get unhealthily skinny. It's because they think that that's what men want from them. Does that make sense? And then having a little badunkadunk and having boobs that feel like, if you have fake boobs and a girl puts on some weight, the boobs actually look more real. Yeah. That's not always bad. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. Like, we don't understand what the opposite gender actually really wants, but we understand what we think they want. That's what, by the way, that's where the eyelashes come from and the 1400cc boob job.
That's like go over the top, it's escalation.
It's over top and it's escalation. Yeah, that's essentially what happens.
By the way, this leads to the next question is like, I always got confused by this whole concept of the dad bod, right?
Remember,
it kind of
go.
became famous
So
with
what is this,
Leonardo
the fourth
DiCaprio.
time we've addressed this
Exactly.
since we've been to
But I feel like it's the perfect segue here is that like women are like, no, like I kind of into the dad bod.
Lies.
But hear me out. Once you're married,
yes.
This is an interesting a buddy of mine married now who was his wife. It was a girl. They become close friends. She would always be like, baby, eat more. Baby, I want you to look good. I was like,
scoop of rice.
and I said, why are you trying to make him fat? She goes, I don't want any other girls looking at him anymore.
Comfort.
I want him to be my fat husband who's comfortable with a little gut.
It's mate guarding, actually.
And I don't want him going, is that called mate guarding?
It's a form of
Break that down,
it's
please,
a form
Rollo.
of mate guarding. Well, I mean, men will mate guard their women, just like, hey, I don't want you going. Overly possessive men.
Right, but they don't want their woman to get fat.
It's
though.
like
It's a different
surveillance.
concept.
They want to know where you are all the time, what you're doing, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But mate guarding it's an interesting dynamic because it's not just about like you with your woman. It could be a father and a daughter or a brother and a sister. It can be like, I'm going to guard you from these guys who are going to try to come in here and impregnate you kind of thing. And it's the same thing with the mate guarding instinct, anyways, with men and women, is this protection instinct that comes out of guys. That's why guys get jealous, and they get jealous for different reasons. But another thing is women will mate guard men as well. They just do it in different fashions. So one of those is the extra scoop of rice, which is I'm going to make him a little bit fatter so other women don't want to get. That's why.
Is that subconscious or is that conscious?
Well, the only reason
Definitely
we're talking about
subconscious, you're saying?
Yes, the only reason we're talking about like dad bods at all is because it's this. It's really a form of mate guarding that's like almost like a global kind of okay, ladies, we're all going to get together. We're going to tell these guys that they look a little bit better with fat, right? Even though we want to. Chris Hemsworth, we want to tell our guys who are our resource providers and our sources of security and good dad genes and provisioning, protection, and parental investment. We want to keep these guys on lock. How are we going to do that? Well, we don't want anybody else like swooping in and taking our guys, so we give them a little extra rice. We tell them, you're okay. You have to go to the gym today. That kind of stuff. It's a form of mate guarding for women to consolidate on the security that they already have. My problem is this, and we've answered this. We've actually had this conversation on Access Vegas. So we said dad bods or hot bods. Now, clearly most guys are going to say, okay, that's right. We put it to the ladies, and this is how I did it. I said, okay, you got two calendars. You've got the Chippendales calendar. You've got the Thunder from Down Under,
right.
Male Stripper, the Hot Fireman's calendar. And you have the dad bods calendar, which I don't even think exists.
Right.
Okay,
The
but let's
Bert
just say
calendar.
theoretically there are two calendars. Which calendar outsells the other one?
Right.
That's all you have to say, because women have, there's arousal and there's attraction. And when we're talking about dad bods, we're talking about visceral sexual arousal. The dad bod is not going to be as physically arousing as the Jason Beckham. That she just went ooh when you just the thought, just the name. Was it Jason Beckham? Was that
David
Beckham.
David Beckham. Yeah. So just the name, what made you go?
Yeah.
Like that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the arousal
Well
factor
settled.
right there.
Hey, you
Just
got a
the
little-
image,
so
the
you got a little
mental
drool on your
image,
lip right
just
now.
the
I know,
mental
with my lip
imagery.
gloss.
So don't give me this bull.
Yeah.
bods.
Yeah, so it's an evolutionary adaptation in Homo sapiens when a man is pair bonded with a woman who is pregnant or has a kid for his body to produce prolactin and for his testosterone levels to go down. This has to do with infanticide, and it's just these are evolutionary adaptations in Homo sapiens. So what happens is the prolactin comes in and the man becomes fatter over time because he's going to have deal with a lot of sleepless nights with the new child. Okay, pair bonding is normal amongst Homo sapiens. Long-term monogamy is not. So now what happens is what these women are seeing is high-status men like Seth Rogen. Who's the other guy that they keep showing? Vince
Leonardo
Vaughn.
DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio with the dad. They're showing high-status men who are multimillionaires and famous, and they have a dad bod.
Right.
So what they're seeing well, he talks about being alluring and being attractive. This is not something that makes their wet. This is something that's like, oh, I have procured the resources from this male. His body looks like the body of a male who is going to stay with me and help me provision for this child. And when I see that, there is nothing but positive evolutionary emotions that are subconscious that I feel. But my vagina does not get wet for that physique.
Yeah.
But it gets wet
all
for
in
the
the
other
beta
type of
butt
Thank
physique.
you for the scientific breakdown,
Yeah.
because basically what does that mean for the average man out there? Unless you turn into Leonardo
Yeah,
DiCaprio
it's so unhealthy.
or Vince Vaughn, don't have a gut.
So the dad bod myth, which is what I call it, the problem with the dad bod myth is now me as a performance coach having to explain to my clients, no motherfucker, you have to have that 1.65 to 1 shoulder to waist ratio.
Yeah.
71% of attractiveness in men from their physical features comes from upper body muscle. Let me say it one more time. If you're talking about when men are attractive to women, it is not your facial symmetry, it's not the calves, it's not leg day. 71% of it is upper body muscle. So when you have that hip to waist ratio, 1.65 to 1, that is most attractive to women. Just like for men, it's the 0.72 hip to waist ratio for men. So when you see that over and over again, that is what women find attractive. And then you go on and you listen to attractive women say, I like the dad bod. Well, I just give up on the gym. It's so harmful to my line of work when attractive women keep saying this dad bod bull.
Well, it's kind of in that element. This is what makes me think of like, if you're a high status man, like you can have as many women as you want.
Yes.
You can cheat. You can kind of a thing. And what I always say is like, okay, so that's the 0.1% of society. We're talking about the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world, or fill in the blank of David Beckham of the world. But that doesn't apply to you, Bill, on the couch right now. Like that. I'm sorry. Like That
Well, how about
you're
this?
not there yet.
Let's use a different example. How about Megan Fox, Machine Gun Kelly?
Machine Gun Kelly.
Okay, Machine Gun Kelly has a pink dress tour. Have you seen this? He walks around in a pink dress.
Right.
If you watching this show wear a pink dress, you are a weird motherfucker in a pink dress. He is attractive already. He has money and status and a
fame,
fine-ass
exactly.
wife. He does that, and then he builds comfort with some people by wearing a pink dress, showing that he is so high status that he can literally denigrate himself, and it's basically the peahen's feather, right? The peacock's feather. So that's what he's doing. If you or I walked around in a pink dress, we would not be sought out by women. It would not be more attractive.
creepy.
You look like a creepy, weird mother.
Right.
And this is confusing. This is the equivalent to the dad bod myth. Men do not go out there and start painting your hair all kinds of different colors and wearing a pink dress. If you want to wear a pink dress, that's fine. But like the point is, in order to express. By the way, like as a performance coach, I don't know what to do with this. Like I don't know when I see this. I'm not. There's no homophobia or anything like that. But I understand that even though he may not be a homosexual man, that's not what he's trying to tell me. He's trying to tell me he is. And when I see this, what am I supposed to take from this as a man when I see the pink dress?
But you
take feminist takeover? What is
well,
it,
you
Rollo?
take it within context too. So he's already a performance, like David Bowie, right? David Bowie being
Right.
Ziggy Stardust. We don't see him as Ziggy Stardust. We see him as David Bowie. So when you look at this right here, the dress is not wearing him; he's wearing the dress. So it's who he is and what he's about. Before, like it's like the K-pop phenomenon. Was it in Korea?
South Korea,
South
yeah.
Korea, right? It's like I get this all the time. Rollo, how come all these very effeminate guys are so attracted to women? I go, well, are they, or is it just sort of the visceral fad of the whole thing? All the girlfriends are into it, so they're into it as well. Is it because it's? I mean, he's still not fat. He's still not, you know, he might have a swimmer's body, but he's not jacked or anything like that. But he still has this. I don't want to really call it like creative intelligence, but creative intelligence is a selected for aspect. So when people ask me about like, oh, what about these emo guys? What about the guy that looks like Robert Smith from The Cure? What about the guys who are? It's like, yeah, I can understand that, but in some ways, I think women who are attracted to that see that as a lower bar that they can meet, as opposed to getting with a guy who is more jacked or is above them in sexual market value.
I think you guys are so spot on to this. And like, so for me, the poster child of this look right now, the last couple of years has been Harry Styles. This guy who got onto
but Harry Styles, I think, isn't he openly bisexual?
I don't know what he is,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of women that are into dudes in dresses these days
For sure.
because of Harry Styles.
Well,
But
here's
he's already famous.
But we
That's
just
the point.
talked. You just talked about Liver King, and then now
Right.
you're looking at this. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum,
Hold on,
right
but
there.
so here's a food for thought. I saw Tupac comment on this.
Yeah.
When he went from being Tupac, the obscure random rapper, to the Tupac we know today, and he gave their shout out to Tupac. He's on the wall over there. He said, a year ago I would show up to this club right here, and I was the skinny weird dude who thought he was gonna be a rapper. I would get no love from women. They wouldn't look twice at me. Now I'm freaking Tupac. I'm getting literal panties thrown my way. And I'm like, I have to beat off women with a stick because I'm that dude now. And ultimately, this is what it comes down to, is that women are attracted to status.
Yes.
Once you get eyeballs and status and fame and you're on the cover of magazines and everyone knows your name, women are attracted to you, whether you're gangbanger Tupac
Let me
or
throw
even
something
Harry
out. Let me-
Styles in a
let me-
dress.
Something just occurred to me here. Now, if you look at Harry Styles and if you look at like Machine Gun Kelly, here he is in a dress. Now, what's the concept of the peacock's tail? Okay, it's being able to have that big peacock's
Yes.
tail because it is a net deficit to the survival adaptation of that animal.
It's making it rain in the club. I
would
got so much
would
money.
this not be the
Yes.
same thing as I'm so paid and I'm so popular? I have such a high status. I'm not going to say alpha, but in the traditional sense, but I am so high value. I can get away with having a peacock's tail. And in this case, the peacock's tail is that big giant dress. Do you think that's
I think it's the same thing as rappers in the clubs throwing money in the air. Do you understand? You're putting yourself at literal risk by carrying around that much cash, throwing it in the air, and they're like saying, I have so much money to burn, I'm throwing it in the air. It's the equivalent to the peacock's tail. Same thing with a watch that's outrageously expensive or a car. These are just things to show excess or
Conspicuous consumption.
Yeah, conspicuous consumption or waste. That's essentially what you're
Peacock.
showing.
And I